from Gallifrey.
Ooh,
This is more like a retro live from Gallifrey, though, because we are going back to Eccleston, and we are now on the second episode with and Rose.
One of my favorite episodes.
Kind of a change up, because like last week we were talking about the New Year's episode, right?
Mm-hmm, that's right.
And so it's been a little while, and you guys know how I feel about Rose. And actually, MJ Spud reached out to me because I had put the question out of like, how old is Rose? And I was a little confused.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she seems like she's living an adult life, but she also seems incredibly young.
Yes.
And apparently, Rose is 19 years old, and in the UK, you finish school at 16.
Yeah.
So by 16, you're done with school and you can get a job, go to university, or do whatever you want. So, you know, being 19, she is out of school for about 3 years, which is why she seems like an adult, but also incredibly young. She is still a teenager.
Yep.
And that's why she kind of has this kind of capricious feel about her, I feel like.
There are particular things that are running through the string with her. We did watch Run.
Yeah.
The episode, it's like, Run.
Yeah.
And now we are seeing this episode. There's a string concerning her. She is one of my least liked companions. And the reason I say that is because she is, in a lot of ways, very problematic. I'm going to give you a list. 1. When we first see her with a montage of her and Mick. So we know that these two are together. They are a couple.
Yes.
The moment comes where she sees the doctor for the first time. He says, Run, immediately. At that moment, P.S. Mickey is now a nevermind. He is not a thought concerning anything anymore. And he is continuously vying for her affection from that moment. Now, yes, he is messing up. Yeah, he says, let's go to the bar, let's go to the pub, because that's where you're going to feel better. He's already messing up. But still, there has to be something that he did.
A level of respect, at least on both sides, where Rose can go to him and be like, hey, I have this opportunity to go on some amazing adventures, and I don't know when I'll be back.
Yeah.
I don't know if I will see you again, but I do need this freedom to explore and to grow and to experience things, because this opportunity has been presented to me.
Yeah.
And I feel like, but she is young, and that's the one thing I always have to go back to. She is a young girl. She is a teenager. She doesn't kind of sheltered, like she has a job and she lives with her mom, and like, but has kind of a very we talked about it last week. If you want to hear all of our negative results, go back 2 weeks ago. Their whole family's trash.
I'm
to
just
the
saying,
episode about Rose.
Their whole family's hot garbage, dude. I'm just saying.
It really is. Bad. And it is hard for me to get into her as a companion. But this particular episode had a lot of hope when I had first seen it originally.
I'm going to point out something for you.
Yeah, I saw this episode, and from the beginning to the end, I thought it was really interesting. We get introduced to Cassandra, who is the last human on Earth. And she is just basically a flap of skin, like a leather stretched out.
Yeah.
And
you have nothing. You're not a human. You don't have anything. All you are is lipstick and skin. Wow, you're
racist. And you're a guest here. And I thought that was incredibly rude and condescending of Rose to go up to her, and especially after she was like, like, are people, are they aliens? You mean they're so alien looking? They just look like aliens.
Now, this is the thing.
That was like a thing of like racism. Like, are they even people?
Right. And here goes something that was also just, once again, problematic Rose. We're going to make it where it's become the theme. Just problematic Rose. Where Rose has a moment where you'll notice she starts to notice that everyone is garnering the doctor's attention when they're introducing everyone.
Yes.
So much so that now she's kind of like, okay, I'm not shining as big as everyone else. That's the reason why she ran off and went into the other room. It wasn't because she felt overwhelmed or anything like that. It was because she felt at the moment, I am not as big or important to the doctor versus everyone else, and I don't know how to deal with that. That's why she ran off.
See, I kind of thought she was having like an existential crisis of being that far away from Earth. This is her first adventure with the Doctor. They takes her to basically the destruction of the world. And she gets to see it. She sees this last human, and I kind of thought, like, is this kind of like an existential, nihilistic view of the world that nothing matters? We are so far away from what I know as our civilization, of what I know as humanity. This is the last human. and the world is blowing up, I kind of thought it was more of like, I don't know how to deal with this kind of depressing, nihilistic weight that is resting on my shoulders. And maybe I'm trying to give her more credit than you are.
I feel that right now what you're doing, you're actually giving her, you're trying to make her a good person.
Because I do really want to like her. I don't.
She's not, because the thing is, think about it, literally, the way the beat goes, everyone does something. The doctor starts to look around. He starts to smile at people. Yes. He smiles at the tree woman again.
Yes.
Before she actually says anything, he smiles at her. Yes. Once he smiles at her, she looks at him. Like, I had to watch her a few times. She looked at him, then looks over, and then she goes, and then runs off. And that's why I was like, you're no longer the spotlight. You can't take that anymore. That's her problem. It was like, me. I'm supposed to be in charge. I'm supposed to be big. I left Mick for you, You're supposed to care about me. That's why it became a big thing later when she gets the clone doctor, and then later she's like, but he's not really you.
And we will get that further down the line. But I feel like in this particular episode, though, because I don't like her, but in this episode, rewatching it, I do have a lot of hope. And I remember feeling that originally, because I didn't like her in the first episode, made that clear 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
In this episode, I started off not liking her, but at the very end, when Cassandra is like, oh, people, what do you even mean by people? And she kind of mirrors what Rose says in the beginning. Ooh. And when Cassandra is starting to dry out and, before she shatters, Rose is like, help her. She asks the doctor to help her.
Yeah, that's right.
And I thought that was such a profound moment for her character. And I thought the writers were purposely kind of writing her to be this frivolous teenager that doesn't know anything. But this was the beginning of her learning arc. And she would grow as a person, as a companion, and become compassionate and understanding and be the person that I want her to be. Ooh. So when she does that at the end and the doctor says no, everyone has a time. Like, that is such a far departure from the doctor that we have been building up to over the last how long?
Okay. I have something for that.
And I also thought that spoke volumes about Rose, that she was like, I can finally see myself in this alien, in this person that I didn't even regard as a person, that we should still have compassion for her. And I thought that was a brilliant moment, and it made me love Rose so much in this episode.
Thank you for rewriting Rose for me, because honestly, I was already I was jumping on cancel culture and ready to get rid of her. Yeah. You actually just gave her at least one more episode for me to pay attention to.
Right. But let me make it clear, it doesn't pan out the way I thought it was going to.
But bravo. I didn't think about that. Here, let me have a moment to rewrite, or at least give you some insight on someone else.
Yes.
The Doctor.
All right.
Namely. And just how brilliant they are as far as Doctor Who and writing concerning past, present, and future. Mm-hmm. When it comes to Doctor, this Doctor is the Doctor after the Time War. Yes. This is the post-John Hurt Doctor. That's exactly what we're dealing with. We didn't know how the Doctor was going to play out until it actually happened. But this is after the Time War. And this Doctor, remember, because when he gets into his TARDIS before he says, oh, I'm wearing thin, we know that when he finally is going to regenerate, he is going to forget the situation that happened.
Yes.
They said that was going to happen. So he forgets all of that, and he relines up as far as time is concerned. So this Doctor is dealing with the pain, the anguish of being a man that actually committed genocide of not only one race, but two. And he has to deal with that. All that pain, all that anger, all that, like, he's distraught. And the moment we see it for sure is when she says to him, well, she's trying to find out who he is. And she's asking questions. Yes. And because it's so much for him, he has to turn away. He can't even discuss the things with her. This is just great to see, knowing that this is the growth, that we're going to get growth from this Doctor.
And we see a little bit with the Forest of Cheam, and Jade, like the main woman character who is Tree, talks and is scanning him. And, as a viewer coming into this, most people were blind. I was blind. We don't find out about the War Doctor until way later, and that comes into play. So I'm also curious, and if I was Rose, I'd be like, I don't know who you are. Tell me about you. But we get it from the side character who is just like, I scanned you, and I thought it was impossible. You shouldn't exist.
Yes.
How are you the last of your kind? So we already see this, and she was like, I am so sorry for you. Yeah. So you get the weight of some kind of sadness that has occurred in his past, that he is the only one, that he should not exist, but for some reason, he is still alive. Yeah. And that's why he cannot really talk to Rose in the beginning.
That's right.
But also, I like how Rose brings it out in him that at the end he was like, you know, this is what happened.
This is what happened. Yeah.
Horrible things have happened. It's difficult for me to talk about it. And I feel like they kind of had this mutual understanding of like, that's enough.
That's enough. Yeah, that's true.
You know?
At the moment, this is enough. You will share when you feel okay.
Yeah.
Now, there are also some little tidbits and breadcrumbs, which I definitely love. We actually got our first utterance of Bad Wolf in this episode.
It is. And Matthew Thompson actually says 9 is so underrated because he only had one season. I absolutely think he is.
Like the Dalek episode also is so great.
So good.
Like these firsts that we get with him, this is great because this episode starts to delve into, now we're going to start dealing with the mythos. We're going to start giving you our mystery. We're going to start building our arc. The first episode was, here's our introduction. Now this was like, here goes now story. Here goes growth. Here goes character development. And we got it in so many ways.
Yes.
It was a character study of the Doctor in a bunch of ways. Character study also of Rose. But like I said, we got the Bad Wolf utterance, and it was really short and really quick. But it was
I don't
that
even
little
think I
blue.
picked up on it.
Yeah, I'll show you. It was the little blue guy that she calls a pixie later.
Oh yeah, the one that's in kind of like the wheel,
yeah,
the hover chair.
Yeah, he's speaking to the face of Bo, and this is right after the little machine just killed the guy with the sun thing, right?
Okay, yeah.
So it's coming out of that little furnace or whatever, that little grate, and then the camera moves over, and that. The butthead is he's the butthead. He's talking to the face of Bo, and he goes, "Yes, this is a. You're right. This is a Bad Wolf scenario." And I was like, "Wait a minute! Wait a minute!"
And that is going to play out with Rose. So they were already developing this a lot earlier than it actually becomes a story arc for her.
And then also, of course, they were setting up our face of Bo situation.
Yes, and we will see him again, which is incredibly interesting.
Oh my God, I love this episode on so many levels.
Wait, Cassandra, doesn't she come back as well at some
She
point?
does at the same time as the face of Bo comes back,
right?
At that hospital.
And that's why, like, these episodes, I also feel like they kind of spent a lot. Are these actual like practical things that they kind of like CGI?
Yeah.
So that's why they have to.
They have to make sure
they
to
spend
reuse them.
so much money on this.
Yeah, we're not just gonna put this out and then never use it again. No, we're gonna make sure that we get our money for it, and that was great. And also, it all matches up because if you do, there's something someone did like kind of like a machete cut following the Captain Jack Harkness, aka Face of Bo, and it's watching his whole storyline.
Interesting, like in their chronological kind of order.
And this is dope because it's like after everything happens to him, there's mentions of him in so many ways. Like one time someone says, "Oh, I got this manipulator off the arm of a very handsome time." You're like, "Wait a minute, so you guys cut off his arm? Wait a minute, so you've done this? You've done that?"
Yes.
There's the theory of his head got cut off by those people that cut off the heads or whatever. There's a whole thing about it. So later,
you have to remind me when we get to those.
I will. So we get the face of Bo.
It's been so long. I've actually never rewatched Doctor Who, so rewatching these are very interesting.
But this whole thing was all held by the face of Bo. Face of Bo was the one that actually invited everyone here and made everything happen.
Yes, this is his.
So this is his event.
Yes.
And then later we see him when he's dying, and he invites
his
the Doctor again.
Yes.
So his whole thing is he knows who the Doctor is, and the Doctor.
The Doctor wasn't really invited to this one. He just kind of showed up. But he invited him.
But once again,
to
the
his
face of Bo
death.
knew he was going to be there. He definitely knew he was going to be there because he's one of his closest friends. So my question is, at this time, does the Doctor know that like? Does that Doctor at this time, does 9 know that Face of Bo is Jack? Or does...
I don't think he does.
But the Face of Bo definitely knows that that's the Doctor.
Yes.
See, so...
Because whatever the timey-wimey situation is, the Doctor doesn't realize this until after, because he has this epiphany in that particular episode.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean...
But
it does set up a lot. I did not hear the Bad Wolf reference.
I'll show you when we're done.
If you could bring that up every single time,
every time you see it,
I think it would be good. Because when I was watching this, we don't realize what is going to be particular arcs. We are kind of blind to everything.
Yes.
So the fact that the writers have put this in so early in the season, for it to not play out until a little later.
And that's genius because the thing is, back then we weren't in that kind of, this is 2005. We weren't fully onto that whole idea of rewatchability for shows, where it's like, oh, okay, great, after the season's over, let's rewatch it again, now everyone's going to talk about it, blah, blah. 2005, we were just really starting to get that kicked off, and they were already planning to work in a way for a show to do that, and that's genius. So that goes even beyond what I expected, and that was what makes Doctor Who so great for me.
Yeah, because we always do talk about the Easter eggs, especially when we're talking about the newest Doctor, and how we go back and we're like, oh man, that's a reference. Like, you don't need to watch Doctor Who to enjoy it, but if you have seen all of the previous Doctor Who's, these are Easter eggs, and it makes it so fun. But the fact that they're putting this in, super great. It kind of, I feel like I love that too, especially with like when we get there about River Song and how they're able to work in her continuity into everything and have it make sense. So they were obviously on the right track with this. Definitely. It does make me like the writing a lot more. I feel like this episode is maybe not one of the best, but it introduces so much, especially with the face of Bo, especially with Cassandra and the and the whole moisturize me thing. I think it's funny, and I say that to myself every single night after I wash my face. And it's such a moisturize. Yes. And I think it's so great. It's so memorable. Like, these characters are incredibly memorable.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love that because we got to see how the Doctor thinks, how he's able to outwit. And I love how we got that one moment for sure when he was like, let's send this back to its owner. And then it goes over to the
memes, the recurring memes or something like that.
And he says, well, what is a meme but an idea? It pulls
a repeated meme.
A repeated meme.
And I love how they have the gold chains and they're wearing black fuzzy things. And I'm like, that costume is so fun.
Yeah. I was like...
and so easy. I just felt like they had like, hey, we have like these black fuzzy drapes. Let's put some gold chains on them.
That's it. And then we'll just have them. And my thing is, why have I not seen anyone cosplay as the repeated meme at Galley?
They don't really come up again.
But still, it's just something, you remember it. If someone did it, they'd be like, oh, I know what that is. You would. So I'm just like,
it's true. I mean, I've seen Cassandra, like, not cosplays, but I've seen them as the assistants with the spray bottles pushing the Cassandra.
Yeah. I've seen that.
Oh my god, I think that's amazing. And, you know, Gallifrey 1 is actually coming up next month.
Yes,
so hopefully we could check some of that out at some point.
I can't wait. It's going to be great. We'll probably be able to shoot something there. It's going to be fantastic.
I know. Stay tuned. Hopefully. Fingers crossed for us, guys. But yeah, so I mean, I feel like this episode is super interesting. We get a lot about the Doctor, or like just a first taste of the Doctor. He's still this kind of mysterious man in a box.
Yes.
We have our companion Rose, who is young, but I feel like in this particular episode shows a lot of potential to be an amazing character. And this is one of the ones that sold me, because we finally get to see space and time. Yeah. I love seeing the aliens who are people.
Much. Love this so much. The introduction of every one of them, I loved it.
And it's still kind of relevant today, where it's like, what does Cassandra call it? It's like, now we will listen to the anthem of our people, and it's Toxic by Britney Spears.
I loved it because
ridiculous.
2005.
Yes.
Britney Spears, Toxic. That song was like pretty much #1 on the charts during that time. And I thought to myself, whoa, they literally took a big chunk of their budget for licensing for this song and then the other song.
And that's why they played it for so long, because they had to pay for it.
It was so cool because how like that whole thing. And then it was like, oh, this is kind of like the actual Toxic video. Because remember, she's a stewardess and the plane goes from Earth to the stratosphere and then into space. And it was like, oh, okay, boom, finally in space. And I was like, oh.
But it's just so ridiculous that it's like they call it an iPad, but we know it as a jukebox. And it has a little record of it, and it actually plays it. And I thought it was going to play some kind of 50s thing of like What's New Pussycat or something like that. But no, like, it's such a pleasant surprise. It's like one of those things that made this episode incredibly fun.
It did. It made it, it was relatable. Just because I was like, hey, I remember that because that was then and then was now. So I loved it.
What's up, Larry Newville in the chat?
Shout out, hey, Matthew and Larry right now. Thank you guys. Appreciate it, guys being here. What else stood out for you in the episode? Or something that you were like, you know what? I need to make sure I discuss on air.
I thought it was a little weird, maybe because I don't watch like a lot of TV that, you know, kind of airs. Like I watch things like HBO where they're allowed to show like a lot of more like racy, say a lot of horrible things. But then when Rose calls Cassandra like a bitchy trampoline or something like that, it kind of caught me off guard. I was like, can you say that? Like, isn't this a family show? Like, you could just throw those words out there? Or is it not as bad as I thought? Am I getting too old and I'm too reserved that like bitch should not be a word that you say on like a family show?
Oh my god.
Or is it just me?
I don't know, because it was interesting for me also when someone walked in when they were talking. They're like, who in the hell are you? And I was like, what are they saying on the show right now? But it was like, But now they say so many different things. But it was like, at that time, it was like, what's going on? What's going on? So I get it.
Yeah, like, and I was a little caught off guard. And and like I mean, I like it. I feel like
BBC was, and it was on BBC One at the time, which is kind of like, it's not HBO. It's like Showtime.
Okay. So it's a little more adult, but I always thought of like Doctor Who being like a very family oriented.
Showtime. It's like FX.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So we have a little giveaway. It's not like on a basic TV.
Yeah, they are. The British are more mature as far as
it is true.
With the language they say, but not with a whole lot of other things. But anyway.
But yeah, I thought that was one of the things where I was super surprised. It kind of caught me off guard, aside from everything else. Was there anything that really stood out to you watching the show?
All the things I would point out. I was like, the Easter eggs, these things.
Yes.
Like, I just, like, for me, there was a lot. One thing that was interesting is when the Doctor had to stop for the fan thing, somebody pointed out to me that they were like, well, this is the thing. So the Doctor himself being, had to look at the infinite schism or whatever that thing is and all this, he essentially, in a way, can exist outside of time. So what he was doing at that moment when the fans were going, he kind of existed outside of time in a way to almost pause it so he was able to pass through the fans. I didn't realize that.
I just thought he got lucky and he's an alien and he just had good timing. And
he just started to pay where it's like almost like I'm paying attention. I'm watching time slow down because I move forward in time, move back in time.
Yes.
It's almost like in a way I'm slowing it down for myself to be able to count the spins and then go through. But I love the tune, the song, because that started to establish the whole thing where we get each Doctor has their own theme.
Yes,
that,
the kind of like. What do you call it? Like a vocal kind of...
Yeah, that orchestral blah, blah, blah
weird.
thing. It was
and it is very distinctive to Eccleston as the Doctor.
That was.
I guess, like, the other thing that kind of catches me off guard, because, like, we have the Forest of Cheam or whatever.
Yeah.
And they have this connection. She acknowledges him as, like, you're an incredibly rare. I cannot believe this. Your story is so sad. And when she sacrifices herself, and he's just like, you can't do that. Like, you're a tree. It is hot. You're gonna catch on fire. And I thought it was a little weird too. Is she just like ashes at the end? Because I thought he would pay kind of either more respects or like kind of pick her up and bring her to the others. But he does talk to her two other companions and was like, whispers to them as like, hey, something had happened, but this is why we are alive.
Exactly.
Which is also really crazy to me watching it now, seeing that he is way more vengeful. He is way more like, she had to die, which is why you understand why he lets Cassandra burst into pieces. But that is not the Doctor that we see now.
No, once again, like I said, this is Doctor fresh from the Time War. This guy has seen people die. He has been the cause of millions of lives. Like at that moment, he thought die. Later, we find out they're all time locked. But that's what he thinks at the moment. So with that being the case, it's kind of like you lose a bit of essentially your humanity. That's what happens sometimes when you look in the face of war, you look death in the eye and it looks back into you, something is coming out of you. And that's what happened. Something did come out of him. That little bit of humanity did come out of him. He gains it later, and that's why he needs companions, so he can gain that piece of humanity every time. You look into life looks into you, you gain something.
I guess that does make sense, but it also kind of alarms me too that the service people on this particular ship, I can't remember what they're called, and I don't remember their names, but the woman in blue, where she's like, I need to ask for permission to speak. And usually, like, this is something else that the Doctor would address, that people in a particular position that is being oppressed, or that you would know, and it seems like this is a normal thing. Because she does say at some point with Rose, she's like, thank you so much for allowing me to speak. Not most people give us that kind of respect. And I feel like the Doctor that we know now would address this within the episode of like, oh my god, I know who you are and I know like what conditions you're under, and will be the one to introduce this and also help remedy their situations and try to make it better. And I was a little, I don't remember so much about this episode, but I was a little uneasy at the end of this that the Doctor would not address it in some way, shape, or form, or that Rose would not bring it up, because I feel like the Doctor is not necessarily like all about justice, but about righting certain oppressions and making it better.
See, but this is with the foreknowledge. Now that you have everything, you've seen it all. You've got that 20/20 in hindsight. But then prior to that, we didn't know, and this is what they're introducing us to. So I did think that, but I also said to myself, I've got to let that go. I've got to let that go.
I mean, it's very early in the Doctor Who reboot
exactly.
stage. Not even a reboot, but continuation of this new era of Doctor Who.
Yeah, you know, so it's like I got to let that go, and I got to let it be what it is.
Yes.
But I do agree with you. It's something that kind of did rub me the wrong way when rewatching this episode. It's like, that's not the Doctor.
It's weird. and like, I guess the other thing too, and this is a question for all of you in the chat, is, you know, at the end of this episode, Rose is almost fried to bacon crispies because the sun shields go down. She was not in control of anything in the situation.
No.
The Doctor did not inform her about anything, and she was left on her own. And this being the first experience for Rose on an adventure with this madman in the box, he gives her the option, is like, it is incredibly dangerous if you travel with me. Would you continue? And she doesn't answer. He doesn't really answer like anything. They end up going to get chips because they both are trying not to address their own internal problems.
Of course, you know,
which is fine.
You
but
have to eat your emotions.
But for you, would you have gone? Would you continue to stay with the Doctor, and why?
Yes, I'm there for the ride. I'm there for the thrill. I've already left Mickey, who is clearly dragging me down and stifling my creativity, and that's why I had to leave him. So, yeah, I mean, dear God, what am I going to do? Go back and, you know, live with my mother? Ugh, no, I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave.
But, I mean, Rose does love her mother. When she gets her cell phone, first person she calls is her mom.
That's
so
right.
Even though she doesn't treat her mom with the utmost respect and is not maybe like the devoted daughter, absolutely loves her mom and is absolutely concerned about her well-being.
Yeah, I mean, I love my mom and I love my well-being, but I don't want to see her every day either, so, you know, whatever. And that's why, you know, she has to go ahead and step out and live her life.
Yes.
You know? She's 19. She's not going to university. You better do something with your life. So travel the world in time and space. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, and I think I have to agree with you that if I was in the same situation, that I wonder if it becomes this kind of adrenaline junkie rush of like, oh my God, I almost died, but I survived, and I got to see aliens, and it was amazing, and I saw the end of Earth, and I know that I was the last human, because guess what? That Cassandra, that bitch trampoline, decided to explode into a gajillion pieces.
That's like a literary trope ultimately in the end, because remember what happens to her in the end, she ultimately becomes a god.
Yeah.
After people, when they do the whole adrenaline junkie thing.
Kind of like the end, but also the beginning of whatever this is.
But like, if you think about it, like the whole kind of dipping out when people are adrenaline junkies, they dip out on death so much, after a while they feel like they're untouchable. They feel like a god. Ultimately, we reward her for all of her time dipping around life, and we make her a god.
I don't like
That's
that.
a problem. That's a problem.
That's a little problematic
I'm just
for
saying,
me. I don't necessarily like that. That needs to be brought to light. But
You're
I
welcome.
mean, it kind of is. And
stipulations, better lines of communication, of course. Oh, okay, yeah. Well, true. I agree with Tom right now.
Larry Newbill, I do not love Rose. I do in this episode. I have to stand by my girl in this one particular episode. I think there might be one or two more where I'm like, you know, Rose is okay. It doesn't negate everything else she did. Okay. But man, potential in this one, it does not go down well for her. Let me tell you, for me as an
I dislike Rose. I love Rose when she was the moment because it wasn't her.
And she's such a good actress.
Exactly. That's why I said I love her as an actress. Billie Piper, great. I love you. And that's why I was like, oh, I enjoyed seeing her. And I got to see her as someone back again as someone I actually liked in a show that I liked. So that's why I like her as a moment, and I don't like her as anything else in Doctor Who's continuity.
All right.
That's all. That's all.
Which I think is fine. And like, I mean, she's young. She was 19. I would always go on that adventure. I would have been incredibly scared though, and the thing is, like, I have a tight connection to my family. I love seeing my family like pretty much every day, like you know, talking to them. And I don't know if in this case Jackie, the mother, does not know about Rose's gallivanting through time and space with a mysterious man.
I love how everyone's trolling you right now.
God, why?
So, Matthew Thompson says, Billie Piper is hot, so can't blame Elle for loving Rose. She does not love Rose. You guys are so wrong.
I like Billie Piper. God, every week.
Great actress, but this episode's flat. See? Thompson's flat.
I
think this episode was pretty good, but ultimately...
Compared to where we are now, this episode compared to the first one, I like her a lot more.
Oh my God,
we learn
so
more about
much.
the Doctor. The intrigue about the Doctor of what has happened, that you are the only one. Something has happened. There was a war that went on, and you are the last survivor. Which, you know, everyone does kind of like that mysterious, tall man that you don't know a whole lot about. I feel like we learned also he is indeed tall, dark, and handsome.
We learned what the dark is.
Yeah.
Reverse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So we learned that. I learned what dark it means. You're brunette.
Yeah. Well, also he has like that kind of that bad boy look with his leather jacket.
Oh, come on! I love it so
He's
much.
also kind of angry though. I would be a little scared where he was just like, he's a man like in that instance with Cassandra exploding. I'm bringing it up again. Mm-hmm. He's a man that if you cross him, he will end you.
Yeah,
and I don't know if I would be okay with that because sometimes I just like say or do random things or I'm like not paying attention. He's like, don't do that. And I'd be like, doop, 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 doop. Sorry, I wasn't listening. I did the bad thing. Please don't kill me, sir. We are a long way from home.
Tonight's the night everybody dies. And he just watch you die. That's
and I feel like that is, I do get that feeling. And it is a little scary that, number one, to never be in control of a situation, which he isn't, never be informed. You know,
okay.
And the thing is, like, she brings it up too, where it's like the TARDIS does a whole lot of translating for her, which is why everyone speaks English.
That part. Okay, go ahead.
But like, what else can it do? I was like, can it manipulate your thoughts? Can it persuade you to do other things?
And she doesn't manipulate your thoughts when it does actually change how you're actually interpreting sound.
Yeah,
it
and understanding. So it's
God.
like, what else does it do? And is this guy a space serial killer?
Yes,
because obviously,
that's the thing you have to concern yourself with. And there are so many things that way. Tom Craven, definitely, we talked about that. The whole foreshadowing of Timey Wimey, The Face of Bo, Bad Wolf. We went into it, man. You missed it. You're gonna have to check out the rest of this episode. We're done. But yeah, is he a space killer or serial killer? I don't know.
Because a lot of serial killers tend to be very charismatic, which he is. Control the situation, but also like.
And they wear leather jackets. You're right. Yeah, I mean they do. They do.
I mean, he may not have a van with a sliding door, but he has a blue box.
Yeah, close enough with the door that's wide enough to be like, come on in. And you're like, I don't. What else is in there? Don't worry, come on in. And then it's larger on the inside, and you're lost, and then you're dead.
Yeah, and so like your way, and I don't know, it is one of those things that like we don't experience it yet, but a lot of horrible things happen to his companions, and it is something that with our knowledge of everything about the Doctor, about how great he is, also a lot of things don't go so well for his companions.
Well, that's the question I always wondered. Ultimately, in the end, is the Doctor doing good for his companions, or is he doing bad for them? Like, because when he is introducing them, think about it, a lot of them, it's like there are situations in their lives that he helps them run away from but never really solve. Then finally they have to come back and they have to face this problem. Yes. And, hopefully they've grown as a person, so blah, blah. But usually they end up where they come back to the problem, and it usually just ends up them cutting someone else off of their life. Yeah. That's usually what it is. So it's like, wow, you're just having people disappear and go cut off of their lives and blah, blah, running around. Sometimes they may die. They become murderers themselves in some ways. Is he making them better or is he making them worse?
And that's the whole thing. It's about the journey they go on. And I feel like one of these things too that I kind of want to just bring up, like hypothetical questions of, she is dating Mickey, and let's say she actually does value and respect Mickey and cherish him as a relationship. Rose during this time ideally would grow as a person, will change her views on things, will become more, I don't know, mature.
Yeah,
I guess. Yeah. And we've seen Mickey, who is kind of a coward and who is kind of frivolous and, the same hate on the same level as Rose in the beginning.
Yes.
And as she grows, when you come back, can you expect that same person to understand everything that you've seen and everything that you've experienced and still have that connection? I feel like once you have all of this and you've seen so much, you become maybe not necessarily jaded, but you have a different perspective on life and on people. You will lose. There's a good possibility you'll lose those relationships, those close relationships with your family, your friends, your significant
as you grow and they still stay stagnant.
Yes.
That's the thing. Now I've gone to a level where it's like, I'm here. I can't continue to go downstairs all the time.
Companions till the very end, because how, seeing the end of Earth and experiencing these aliens, and this is only her first adventure.
And you're right. Tom Craven says exactly what you said. I think the Doctor helps empower the companions.
But does that make their lives more fulfilled in a way?
Well, see, and that's the thing. Like, ultimately, if we're going to discuss it still when it goes to Rose, that's the problem. She still, in the end, was just spoiled. The Doctor literally gave her a clone of himself.
And gave her the ideal life with her mother and her father.
And later, when we find her again, she says, yeah, but he's not you. I'm not really that happy. And he's just, the clone one is just like, well, thanks, I guess I'm
standing right here.
Yeah, like right here. And he means nothing. The thing is, ultimately, did Rose learn something? No, she did not. And she became worse of a person over time.
If you're tuning in every Sunday, it is going to be a lot of bashing, so I hope you're okay with it. Get your friends that are Rose lovers and tell them to argue with us so we have more interesting things to talk about, because both Daniel and I do not really like her.
Oh my God.
And I already anticipate, and it's kind of hard to go back because I already know how a lot of the episodes are, and I didn't really start to love and have that fandom of Doctor Who until Tennant, which is until Rose left.
Yeah.
And then I absolutely loved everything, but I felt like the show always had the possibility of being what it should be and what it is now.
Very true.
It was hard to get through, and I don't even know if we're doing the show justice, because I do like it, and I am going to try to defend it and try to find ways to love it.
But see, this is the thing. I feel like if you are indeed a fan of a show, you should be able to objectively be able to say, well, these are the problems.
Yes.
These are the pitfalls of the show.
Yes.
Doesn't mean the show's bad, because there are so many moments where we hit those pinnacles, where it's like, here are the great heights. But yeah, we do have some low lows. And I just want to discuss some of them both. That's all.
Yeah, and it is the growth of the show, and seeing it's a testament to how people have loved it and how it has grown and shaped, and we're the companions, and the show has grown, and I feel like we have grown as an audience member.
Yes.
We are not Roses, thank goodness.
Oh, thank God. Thank God. Oh boy.
Hopefully we won't be
I'm looking to grow to be a Graham.
Or really the Pawns.
No, looking to grow to be a Graham.
We would like to be Grams, but we don't know how that ends yet. I still feel like Graham might die, but that is for when we come back in 2020 and we get to watch these new episodes. Until that, Graham is living an excellent, fairly happy life, still getting over Grace.
Okay, we're going to go too far and I'm going to start crying. So, with that being the case, is there anything else that maybe pointed out that sparked your attention in the episodes? You're like, I gotta make sure I tell people.
No, I feel like we talked about everything. I feel like we got a good grasp. I have high hopes for Rose. My naive self rewatching this has high hopes for Rose at the end of this episode, and that I will absolutely love her as a companion.
Oh. Yes, that's exactly how we do feel. So with that being the case, we want to know what you guys thought about this episode. Not scoring Rose. This episode is the end of the world.
Rose, but this one,
yeah.
I actually absolutely love this.
Okay, and you had moments where you're like, yes, all right, this was interesting, this is what I liked, this is what I loved. We want to have you guys kind of think about that real quick and give us your rating of what you think this episode was. Out of 5, what do you guys give it? Just let us know, 5 being the highest.
Or any number. Please participate with us. It makes it so much more fun.
Yes, it does.
Tell your friends to come and join the live stream.
Exactly.
To watch our videos so we can talk about this fandom. I know a lot of hashtags, this is a fairly new show.
Yes.
We don't have a whole lot of people tuning in, but we do want to hear your thoughts. Exactly. And we want to hear your comments. And even if we're not on a live stream, go to Facebook. Go to THS Hashtaggers. Leave us a comment there. We'll engage there. Yeah. We'd love to talk about this. And it is such a long time until we get back to Jodie Whittaker and new episodes of Doctor Who. We have to fill this.
Yeah, we have to fill this void. And this is what we're doing. And what we're trying to do is reintroduce a lot of people. Well, for us, it's a reintroduction. And for some of you, it's an introduction. A lot of you don't know anything. Be like, I'm a pro of Doctor Who, and this is my opinion.
And we can have deeper, richer conversations. Yes. We can talk about cool little Easter eggs.
It becomes just as good, and the mythos is just as rich as what you guys are accustomed to with Power Rangers and a lot of other shows. Trust me. So take the time, tune in, watch it. You can get it on Amazon Prime. You can see it on a lot of other things. Take time and enjoy it. But we do see some ratings.
We have Matthew Thompson, gives it a 2 out of 5.
Ooh, nice. We got Edward Sanchez Productions, give it a 4 out of 5. We have Tom Craven, who gives it a 3.5.
Sonic Screwdrivers.
Is it 3 out of 5 Sonic Screwdrivers? And Larry Newbill gives it a 3. Not bad. Now, I got to know, what do you give it?
Because I know how the rest of this season is going to go, and I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be giving out a whole lot of high scores. And because this one showed so much potential with Rose at the end, and I saw a lot of growth and a lot of understanding with her, I got to give this one a 5.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah.
That is a heavy, super duper high rating.
And this is with hindsight in mind, but also watching it and understanding it as this second episode, I thought it was incredibly well written. They laid a lot of the little bread crumbs that we are going to follow for the rest of for a lot of Doctor Who, actually.
Yes.
Introducing these characters, introducing this idea that there was a war, and like the Doctor kind of being this very traumatized, like kind of, you know, grizzled and like jaded man, and like not caring. And I really not only in this episode not knowing what's happening, but also knowing everything that has happened since then. I really, really like this episode. Also, moisturize me. It's a big thing. I say it every day. You will too.
I agree with you on so many levels. And also, just to add in just a little bit, for me, this is actually the first episode of Doctor Who, in my opinion, when it comes to 2005. Rose, yeah, sure, you know, blah, blah, introduction, etc., etc. This is where we start, once again, laying subplots, giving us information, pretty much sprinkling the breadcrumbs, and establishing characters. Like I said, it's like a character study on so many levels for just a small
that she died, but that it was able to... you know, entices to emotion.
Yes, and that quick, and that's why I loved it. And then doesn't she later play someone else in Doctor Who? I forgot. There's something about it.
I feel like everyone's on Doctor Who.
Is she the whatchamacallit from Van Astron gang? I think that's the thing. I don't know for sure. But the thing is, it was like with all of that, putting that all together, like I said, this is why it feels to me like my real official start to the 2005 beginning of the season. So I give this episode a 5.
Wow.
I give this episode a 5. We are high fives because we give it a 5.
And Larry Newville, we convince him it is a 3.5.
Look at that. Yes.
He just raised it up just a little bit.
I love that.
Our conviction help get...
I'm telling you, Larry, and if we can convince you to raise it up just a little bit, trust me, we can convince other people to watch the show and actually get a new love or a first love for the show. And that's what we want people to do. Shout out to you, Matt. What do you say? I got to bounce. Cool, guys. Hanks, thank you. We definitely do appreciate it. I think I may have some information concerning, did she play someone else? No?
On Torchwood.
Oh, she did!
On
Torchwood. Okay, cool.
Producer Nagami has just informed us that she was on Torchwood, which is also a really fun show.
So, with that being the case, I think we've broken down the episode. We've given you some highlights. We've given you our opinions and our insights concerning Doctor Who.
We're probably just going to run through it. Please join us next Sunday at 7 o'clock. We'll be doing a live stream. You bring up any of your Doctor Who questions, whether they're relevant or irrelevant to the episodes. We just love to talk about this show. So please.
And invite a friend. Invite a friend. Every one of you should actually, that should be something. Every one of you bring in one additional friend. It would be great. Great.
It's going to be like chainmail. So you put it out, and then you tell 3 people. And you tell those 3 people, they have to ask 3 more people. And in 6 generations, we will reach the entire world.
Exactly. So make it a thing. But with that, make sure you guys like, comment, share, and subscribe, and make sure you hit that bell so this way you'll know when we come back and give you new episodes of this show. So with that, once again, where can everyone find you?
I am Elle Tea on Instagram.
And I am Battlestar Galactica on Instagram. Again, I'm going to say it because I love saying the phrase. Like, comment, share, and subscribe to keep up to date with everything trending
in geek pop culture.